best of us. Anyway, let's get to my special guest tonight, Bill Maher. He's, of course, the host of HBO's Real Time. Bill, welcome back to you.
Thank you.
Just goes to show, doesn't it? It can happen to even the great.
Yeah,
the great
it kind of took the wind out of your sails, didn't it?
It did a bit. Yeah, I was about to lambast them for running a terrible system.
There you go.
Technologically flawed, and there we
Easy
go.
to live in a glass house, isn't it? Or over above a glass table, as you do here.
Sum up the last few weeks. I mean, has it been, as I said, a comedian's dream, this?
They say that about everything. It's always a comedian's dream. Actually, we have to work very hard. We make everything funny because that's our job. But I don't think it's been any crazier than it was a month ago. I mean, only a few weeks ago, it was the Republicans who were on the hot seat because of the government shutdown, and that was a comedian's dream. And yes, Washington is always a comedian's dream. That's why I got into this business.
Is it any worse than it's always been? I mean, in reality, you've covered this for so long. What do you think?
Well, I think the country in general is on a decline. Yes, I do. As British, you probably understand that. The fall of an empire. Yeah, I think I remember 20 years ago when I started on Politically Incorrect, one of the first issues we ever did was, are people getting stupider? They were then, and they still are. So I can't imagine how stupid they must have gotten. But it sure is hard, if you're a politician, not that I'm really that sympathetic to them, to try to get information into people's heads. I don't think Obama should have lied to people.
It was a lie, wasn't it? I mean,
well, let's hold on. First of all, insurance companies are always dropping people from their plans. This goes on. This went on before Obamacare, went on after Obamacare. We're losing a lot of perspective here. But yeah, he probably should have not been so blatant about saying you ironclad guarantee. On the other hand, since he got no Republican votes and no Republican help, and since 3 years after it's a law, they're still fighting it, can you imagine what it would be like if he said, yeah, some people, your rates are going to go up? I mean, the thing passed by this much. If they had said that, they might have lost the whole thing. And politicians are always making compromises like that. For crying out loud, they made a compromise on slavery.
But when I see the President of the United States...
When this country began.
Right. But when I see the President of the United States repeatedly, including at the State of the Union, assuring the American people, look, you want to keep your doctor, you want to keep your plan, you will. And he said it again and again and again. Now we know that senior members in his very administration knew all along. They've known for 3 years that probably at least 50% of all the people that applied, that would not apply to them. They would have to change their plan. But that is a barefaced lie. And I speak as somebody that is supportive of Obamacare. I come from a country where we don't get why there would be any scandal over bringing 11 million more people.
Let's look at the perspective again on this. Why did we do this? Why did Obama, a lot of people when he got into office said he made a big mistake. He should have went after the economy first. No, this is the economy. We went after this for a couple of reasons. One, upwards of 50,000 people in this country were dying every year, needlessly, dying because they didn't have health coverage. If that many people died from terrorism, we'd probably be using nukes on some country. The other reason was it was bankrupting this country. We couldn't go on the way we were going to go. We had to do something. What is the Republican alternative? I get that this is not working out perfectly. I don't think anybody ever thought it would. But what is their alternative? Basically the status quo. If you're poor, go to the emergency room. Walk it off. Now, besides the fact that's awfully cruel to ask any people to wait on a health issue until it's an emergency, wait till that appendix bursts, young lady, then we'll go on to the emergency room. It's just counterproductive. And for the people who are always about the takers, this is a massive hidden tax. You may not have never been to an emergency room, but you pay every time people go.
No, it's not if I've been to one. I broke 5 ribs actually, and punctured a lung falling off a Segway. Do not use that as your next comedian routine. I woke up to a guy, I was on morphine in agony. I woke up to a guy literally handing me an invoice. And I was like, what the hell are you doing?
But you can
This is medicine.
My point was all the people who go to the emergency room because they do not have coverage.
Right.
We wind up paying for that. That's one reason why health care costs so much.
Right, but I agree with you, and I support the principles of Obamacare. But that's why I'm even more frustrated that the system has failed, allowing perhaps the whole thing to collapse. We don't know how it's going to play out, but if the very people they need to get enrolled, the young people who are pretty healthy now, who may have 30, 40, 50 years, they're the ones they have to get. If they are turned away from this,
they're going to get.
It's been a fiasco.
First of all, every program of this size was a headache at first. So was Bush's Medicare prescription drug program for the old folks. Remember that? Hey, free Viagra. Have a boner on George Bush. Remember me at the polls? Yeah, they didn't like that at first. Now it's very popular. Social Security, Medicare, all these programs have these kind of problems when you start with them. But the reason why it's going to work is women. Yes, young men do not want to sign up because they think they're invincible. Women get it because women are a little more complicated, you know. They want contraception, they want breast exams. They're a little smarter about that too. They don't think they're invincible. Look, it has a lot of problems, but you know what? Even with all the problems, in 4 polls last week, Obamacare is more popular than ever. And Republicans like to cite this statistic that something like 54% of people are against Obamacare. It's very, very misleading. That includes the 16% of people who think it doesn't go far enough. So Americans really want coverage, of course. It's going to be popular. It's about your health, the health of your family. It's a life and death issue. And again, it was there, it was created because people were dying and the country was going broke. It's going to be a rocky birth, but it's not going to fail.
Should Sebelius go? I mean, should somebody carry the can for the fact that the system has started so badly?
You know, I'm not a big fan of scapegoating.
Ever?
Well, no. Well, yeah, ever, if it's actually scapegoating. I mean, I'm not...
Are you a fan of accountability where
course,
people,
absolutely.
if someone's in charge of it?
There's a difference between accountability and scapegoating. If she really is somebody who should have known what she didn't know, yeah, I guess so. But right in the middle of it, I think it's counterproductive to get rid of the person who's been there all along and probably has more of this in her head than anybody else.
When she says,
who knows all the details,
right.
Why get rid of her now to make the situation worse?
But when she says we're going to bring in the A-team, I'm like, well, hang on a second. Yeah. This is the president's great initiative. Where was the A-team before?
Oh, that's absolutely true. There's no defense for that, and I would never defend him on that. That is so ridiculous and so frustrating for any progressives, because, again, this was his great signature achievement.
And why didn't he know a month before, when all these warning signs apparently were there, that it wasn't ready, it was failing? Is it really credible that the president, whose massive legacy may be based around this, didn't know anything about it being problematic?
Not credible and not excusable. I thought he was the detail guy, you know, and also, as Michael Moore said on my show Friday night, you know, young people, or the ones that are trying to sign up, this is a glitch in the world they live in.
This is granddad not knowing how to use the internet, right?
This is, you know, well, if I use the clicker, will I get covered, you know? So it's just, there's just no way to excuse this or to say it's a good thing. But again, we'll see where we are in a month.
Let's play a clip. This is actually what Eric Cantor had to say. Then I want to play a clip that you had to say on your show. Let's watch Cantor first.
If the president knew that these letters were coming and still indicated that you could keep your health care plan if you liked it. Now, that raises some serious questions about the sales job of Obamacare. And that's why we're all saying that we shouldn't allow the American people to be impacted like this.
Okay, so that's the Republican criticism of Obamacare, which is one issue in all this, and you've already spoken about it. Let's watch what you had to say about this on your show.
I am going as the scariest thing of all. I'm going as the healthcare.gov website. That thing is a bit of a mess. But I tell you something, I love this country. Americans have waited 70 years for affordable health care, but if the website takes more than an hour, I'm watching a cat video.
Just to clarify, you don't like cat videos, right?
I've actually never seen one.
Now look, here's my point. I agree with almost every word of what both people said there. I agree with Cantor's criticism of Obamacare and the way it's been sold and rolled out. I think it's been sold on a lot of untruths, misleading statements, whatever you want to call it. I also agree with you, though, that in the end, if the ends game that comes in, 5-6 months or whatever, is that actually it begins to work, it's a pretty good plan.
And also, let's, again, have a little perspective. Was any program ever ever sabotaged to the degree this one has been. I mean, it's been 3 years. It's not a bill. It's a law. I know the Tea people think they know the Constitution. I don't think they've even read it. A bill becomes a law. Once it does, you don't argue about it. You know what this whole thing reminds me of? There's a really stupid award show called the ESPYs. It's on ESPN. It's the sports award show. Okay, you don't need an award show for sports because we know who won, because they actually played the game. For best football team, yeah, the winner of the Super Bowl. I don't care what your opinion on the best football team is after they played the Super Bowl. I don't care what your opinion on the health care law is now. It's the law. You're supposed to help it along. Democrats were not for going into Iraq, but I know I said once it's a fait accompli, I'm rooting for my country to succeed.
Right.
That's not how they've played it. We'll filibuster, we will shut down the government, we will go to the mat in every possible way, we will vote to repeal it 41 times. Really? That's the patriotic thing to do about a program that is trying to bring health care to people in this country who don't have it? Yeah, there are problems. Let's work together to fix them. Why aren't there Republicans for Medicare for all to begin with? They're supposed to be the party of business. For years, business has been complaining that we are in an unfair advantage with other countries because we have to cover our workers. Because other countries don't have this stupid program that we have where the corporations have to provide the health care. This was started after World War II when they froze wages as a way to compensate workers when they couldn't up their salaries. And we still have it. If we were smart, we would have, like Canada, like Britain, like all these other countries, we would at least have a public option. That would straighten out a lot of this mess. And the other thing is, in states where they want it to work, where they're cooperating, it is working. Right. Which is the greatest hypocrisy of all for the Republicans, because everything they always say is about send it back to the states. The federal government is where things don't work. Let the states handle it. If the states had cooperated and they were handling it as they are in the states that are cooperating, it does work a lot better.